Hey Aries, how are you? I wanted to talk today, which is why you're seeing me here, and then we'll get to the cards. I'll of course put a timestamp for people who don't want to listen to this. But I finally had like a sort of eureka moment yesterday about putting together all the pieces of the energy that's going on right now, which I have been suffering incredibly from. I've had mood swings like rarely before in my life. But yesterday I kind of put all the pieces together. So there's two anecdotes that I want to tell. As you know, I understand what's going on in the energy by the narratives that happen around me. And the key kind of like keywords for what's going on now is kind of like great movement forward, integration of energy as a result of that great movement forward, causing or necessitating a release of blocks, which will result in a new sort of sense of freedom and liberty, but then also bring with them a set of tests to make sure that this whole pass, that the integration has actually happened. And if the tests are passed, then awesome, can kind of like chill out. Otherwise, it's sort of about uncovering any skipped steps that haven't happened over the past few months. So now we know we've had an incredible year. I'm sure most of us can sort of look back at where we were in January and see that there's been a lot of development in one or more areas of our life, whether it be professional, personal, relationships, or even spiritual development. And we tend to, as Aries, we tend to forget to see how far we've come. All we look at is what's missing in front of us. And this creates an enormous amount of tension and anxiety. But things are very different for us. Now, I'm trying to figure out which of the two stories to tell. I think I'm going to start with this one. So I have a dear friend of mine here at the beach who has an 18-year-old daughter. I've known her since she was a baby. Her daughter and my daughter are like super BFF. So this girl turned 18 in July. And within a week or 2 weeks, really, she was like almost a completely different person. She had started to drink, which was now legal. It's legal here to drink at 18. She was like perfect child before. I'm not saying she's not a perfect child now. I'm just saying that there was an enormous character flip in one day. She turned 18, went on a vacation with her friends without her parents, started drinking, got a boyfriend here at the beach, and lost her virginity. All in 1 month. Now she's on vacation with her parents, right? And now is like the quiet after the storm, like movement. And one of the things that I said to her, I was like, you don't, in Italian, we call them bruciare le tappe, which is like burn through all the milestones. I was like, you don't have to run. I'm not judging on anything you did. It's all normal. It's all legal. It's, there are normal things that people do. I was like, but if there's some sort of pressure, because now you feel like you're 18, so you have to do these things, or like, now that I'm 18, like, let me do everything at once. I said, you want to give yourself time to get used to being where you are. And this is kind of the energetic integration, right? Like when you make a huge leap forward, that since we're all systemic, there are implications on energetic bodies, emotional bodies, et cetera, et cetera. So when we make these giant leaps forward, it takes the rest of our systems time to recalibrate, and balance out. And so when we keep pushing forward without letting that integration happen, which means stopping every now and then and letting everything kind of fall into place, that's when we get out of balance. Now, leading into the out of balance thing. So I practice yoga regularly, and I had been and I hurt myself twice this year, which has never happened before. But I had two kind of, not major injuries, but I was out for at least a month each time. And I noticed that once I picked it up again, I was never getting better. And I never felt those, muscular strains that you get when you do too much. It was like my body didn't feel anything anymore. And so I finally decided to go see an osteopath here at the beach, also because they told me it was super cute. So I wasn't going to say no. And he did his thing and he unblocked me. And for the next like 3 or 4 days, I started to feel pains like all over my body, right? So and he basically said that I had hurt my muscles so bad that they were so contracted that they weren't allowing any feeling, but also no movement. And that was the other thing I noticed. I was actually getting worse at yoga as opposed to getting better. So because it was so contracted, that I didn't necessarily notice that anything was wrong, but because none of the feeling was actually flowing through my body, my muscles were just like blocked. And so he undid that, and things started moving again, and I started feeling pains all over the place. But at the same time, I also stopped feeling so rigid and more flexible. And so what happens, as I put these two stories together, is that you have this kind of like massive move forward, which had an incredible impact on all of your bodies. Spiritual, physical, emotional, whatever. And somewhere in there was probably a block that formed because it happened so quickly that we weren't necessarily aware of. But in this moment of retrogrades, which the summers are never fun because the planets are always retrograde and we hate that energy. So in this summer of retrogrades, where it's all about reintegrating and reincorporating, literally reincorp in the body, so put back in the body, is when we start to realize where the blocks are, where the releases need to happen. And then we get that thing released, which is kind of like what all this pressure has been about, forcing the pain to get you to look at what needs to be released. Like my hip was so bad that I was finally like, okay, fine, I'll go to the osteopath. And then once that's released and you're almost like leveled up, then there's a little test, right? Because I also got this one too, and I won't go into too much details into it. But there was definitely a situation that had arisen where I had a choice. It's like, do you want to do this or do you want to do that? If you do that, it's kind of what we've always done. And we kind of know the drama that it'll cause and like the potential pain it could ultimately bring, but it would definitely be fun. Or do we do the boring thing and sit it out, right? And not do it and say like, you know what, if it's meant to be, it'll be. I'm not going to rush it, right? And so all of this kind of leads back to the idea of testing our need to rush or seeing as whether we're willing to go take things one step at a time. So there's a little test that comes at the end once you've released everything to be like, okay, are you sure? Have you gotten the message? Like, have you learned that things take time to develop, that if it's meant to be, it will happen, that just because it doesn't happen immediately doesn't mean it's not going to happen, or just because it does happen immediately doesn't mean it's going to last. So it's very much about this whole process, about learning to teach us a little bit of trust in the universe, you know, that like if it's meant for us, it will find us, and B, also to understand that there are consequences for skipping steps, and there are consequences for not respecting the process and respecting the order and giving yourself time to integrate and rebalance and get into a more solid head and emotional space. Okay, so that's my little spiel. I'm going to start with the cards now. We'll do the reading for the week of the 8th, 8/8, Lionsgate. It's kind of like, it's more, I want to say it's more theatrical than it is real. It's like not a thing, but it is a thing. Anyway, Lionsgate and New Moon today in Leo. So that is very nice. So let's take a look at the cards here, and I'm going to drop this down. Okay. Can I get the cards for Aries, please, for the week of August 8th? Week of August 8th. I keep wanting to say 18th. I don't know why. I'm using the wrong deck. That's why it's not coming out. I don't want to use this deck. I'm going to start over. Okay, can I get the overall energy? There it is. And that is so funny because I was going to like do the little spiel with the cards. And this was one of the cards that I pulled out. And so there it is. Happy, happy. Now, I think I said this in the last reading. This is one of my favorite cards in this deck. It's also an 8, right? So 8/8 on the 8 coming up. Happy, happy is nice. The Sabian for this one is positive. And I feel like this new moon is going to bring us a new understanding, but also a new freedom. You know, she's like released, enjoying things, like relaxed, not rigid, not and kind of just like going with the flow, like being able to enjoy where she is in this moment. So I feel like that's definitely the energy that's coming at us. And I certainly felt the difference between, like, what was it? Today's Sunday. So God, Friday was horrible. I think the sun was square Uranus that day. So if anyone else had a really like total shit day on Friday, you're not alone. Can I get the challenge energy, please, for Aries, week of 8/8? Okay, so truth be told in reverse. So this can be, the first thing that came to mind when I was thinking about it is a truth that you're ignoring, or something you're not willing to look at, something you're not willing to say, something you're not willing to admit, something you're not willing to accept in terms of information, or that you're just not... that you're not open yet, perhaps, to seeing the entire truth of a situation. And this may be the challenge. The challenge may be that there's more to be known, or that there is a piece of information that you're missing in order to turn this upside down, or right side up, rather. Can I have... And this is a 5, you know, so 5 is the turning point. So it's really like whatever this information, it may be like mine, like yesterday, that sort of eureka that I had, like being able to sort of reframe the situation, reframe the conversation, and look at things from a very different point of view, because I was in a very bad headspace on Friday. But like sort of figuring it out managed to take me out. It was like sort of flung the windows open. So there's some sort of information that you either need to get, need to listen to, need to tune into, that will help kind of turn the situation around. Very nice. And then we have here Treasure Island as the lesson. And I think what this lesson is really about, and this was also one of the things that I was saying to myself when I was in a dark space, I was like, you have to focus on not what's wrong, right? Like not, instead of looking at how much road there is still to be achieved in front, this is a time to respect how far you have slowly, because a little turtle there, but how far you have swam this year and how many riches you have gained in terms of knowledge, in terms of opportunities, in terms of whatever. But focusing, really spending the time to focus not on what's wrong, but on what's right. And that will sort of put... And also baby steps. That's the other thing. We are so classic, like, I need to do 100% tomorrow. Start with 9%, right? Just do a little bit, and then a little bit adds up to a lot. Can I get 3 cards for Aries for the week of August 8th, please? 3 cards. Okay, Knight of Wands. Yeah, so this is definitely us, like, loving to ride into things with our little passion stick there. Can I get 2 more cards, please, for Aries, week of August 8th? Two more cards for Aries, week of August 8th. Okay, oh, interesting. I was going to pull this card before too. Lovely, love it. All right, so we have this being out of balance, right? The 6 of Pentacles is like when things... Some people talk about it being generosity or whatever. I always take this as a card of unbalanced and being brought into balance. And here we have the 10 of Cups. I rarely get the 10 of Cups in a reading. And so if I take like the stories that I was telling before, what I really think this is, like I was saying, all of that movement that we made early in the year may have left us feeling out of balance, right? And either feeling like we're the guy standing up, giving too much, or we're just on our knees, right? And feel like we're constantly always depending on other people. And it's actually not true. Because we have both of these cards who have shown up here. So there's definitely a shift in the energy because we haven't seen such terribly nice cards over the last few weeks. But one of the other things is that it's always been about the perspective, right? And this truth being told, being in reverse, only card in reverse on the table, means that in order to turn it around, that we're not actually looking at the truth. We're looking at a negative version of what has happened. But there is a positive version, and it's actually far more pleasurable or pleasant than the one we're looking at. So if you're in a negative headspace, and I know this is like, how do I calm down? So never in the history of calming down did anyone calm down by being told to calm down. So it's not easy for me to be like, just think positive, but use the information, like analyze the situations going around you or what you've gone through or why you're upset, and try and see how you can flip that on its head to something that's more in line with what's actually happening. Perhaps even, I would dare say, and don't take this the wrong way, but a less dramatic version of facts, right? Sun is in Leo right now. We are acting we can be a little high drama. So look for a less dramatic version of the facts. Or go in and sort of dig into what blocks need to be released, what needs to be released, because this is very much about letting something out, right? And it can be either saying something, it can be admitting something to oneself, it can be hearing something from someone else, but there's some sort of information that needs to come in to help you sort of release this block and let the energy start flowing again, because there's actually quite nice energy over here. All these cards on this side are very nice. This one just talks about having moved too fast, right? Again, those skipped steps, and that moving too fast ultimately putting us in a state of feeling a little bit out of whack, a little out of balance, and either like we've given too much so we don't have the energy, or like we're just life has put us on our knees and we're just constantly begging to stand up. And really, and it's interesting because this is the Pentacles, and this is such a water card. And it's like, if you tap into your emotional state, like more of a flow state, you realize that actually you have more abundance than you think if you're sitting there counting the pentacles or worrying about earthly things. And so to kind of move into a softer energy and also be kinder to yourself about how you look at what's been going on, and just allow yourself to enjoy what is going on. Now, as I said, I do think this new moon is very much about correcting the steps that we've skipped to ultimately put us into this energy here that it's like, hey, you know what? Shit is good. All this stuff just had to happen because I moved too fast and my energy got out of whack. And so now it's just been reintegrating, and allowing me to release things, to see blocks that need to be released, in order for me to be able to move forward. Now, as I said, the testing may have been like a me thing because the universe knows I'm very stubborn and don't like to learn. So you may be not being tested. I'd be surprised. Saturn does love a good test. So just remember that when you're presented with a situation from the past that you've been in 100 times, you already know how it ends, this is your chance to choose a different path, right? So I would just advise that. Let's get some last minute advice here. All right, I'll take it. Goddess Freya and Amber, the Untamed. That sounds interesting. Looking forward to reading this one. 48. Okay, here we go. We bring you the empowerment of the untamed. To be untamed is to be true to oneself without condition. It is freedom, but it is not always easy. There are many belief systems, some of which are considered to be essential and beyond question to mainstream human society, which would mark an untamed spirit as a dangerous and suspicious creature, even though that untamed spirit serves unconditional love. Yet to be tamed is the only way to Yet to be untamed is the only way to discover who you are and live your divine destiny. Behind the clothing, the social masks, and the stories you tell yourselves, or that others tell you, there is a beautiful, wild, divine creature that wants out. Uncage that divinity and watch your wild beauty emerge as you and your world transform through raw grace. Interesting. Hold on, let me just flip through this to see if there's... Okay, so interesting, because a lot of the blocks, like what I'm getting from this is that like some of those blocks, like mine were physical just from like exercise and stuff. But a lot of the blocks that seem to be holding us back here, as this suggests, are social conditioning, and what we're supposed to do and what we're supposed to be. Okay, so here it says, this oracle brings you guidance. Do not allow fear-based reality to temper your spirit, tame your heart, or dull your dreams. There are so many people who will tell you no, call you crazy, and say you are living in a dream world. That is what they need to believe, because your increasing aliveness is too much for them as yet. They aren't ready for it. And this we kind of talked about a couple weeks ago, like moving forward and being ahead and waiting for everybody else to kind of catch up with us. And that's why it was so annoying this time period. Sorry, I lost my place. Okay, what they say and believe is about them, not you or reality. Part of your unplugging process necessarily involves reclaiming the power you have given to any other person to hold an opinion that means more to you than the truths of your own heart. Also know that part of the conditioning and the lies that exist within mainstream culture is that life within the system is safer and easier. This is completely untrue. When you learn to live wild and true, you'll see that it's so much easier for the universe to assist, uplift, inspire, and support you when you aren't cowering in fear trying to prevent life from reaching you. If you feel you or your life is out of control, or feel you want change but everyone thinks you're crazy, believe in yourself. Know that your wild spirit is being given an empowerment from the universal goddess of life to become untamed. That is very interesting, I have to say. Yeah, so going into the whole like releasing of blocks and stuff and seeing the abundance and seeing the richness that you are here as opposed to only the situation. You know, it's really kind of like accepting, and I see these two sort of like gold things here. Really accepting kind of the richness of yourself and also not making apologies for it. So if that's been anyone's block, like that you wanted to take the plunge, but you were afraid of what people would say about you, that your happiness lies on the other side of that. Or that you had to like buy into some prefabricated dream when really you know, is like, this could be your happy or this could be your happy, but it's up to you to decide like what is your treasure island, what makes you feel good. And so taking this time and this process to sort of push us forward and this retrograde time to sort of understand what needs to be released, what we need to let go of, what's in our way, what will make us more flexible and more fluid, what will unblock where we were so contracted that we couldn't move anymore, what will allow us to be free and fluid, and to move forward, albeit slowly, although the turtle in water moves a lot faster than he does on land, no? But that's also like kind of about being in your own element too, like finding your element so that when you're there, you can swim instead of, instead of moving at it moves at a different pace if you're out of your element. Let's put it that way. All right, so lots of messages today. A very interesting energy for this new moon. Wishing you a very happy week, and I will try and speak to you next week. I'm actually leaving again. I'll be gone for 3 weeks with like even worse connection than I have here. So I can't promise anything. If worse comes to worse, I'll do like a written thing on the community board. But anyway, wishing you a very happy week. Take care.